John?
Sandra, moments ago, President Trump slamming Iran over the Strait of Hormuz, calling the regime's tactics, quote, a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. Let's bring in John Yoo, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General and law professor at UC Berkeley, who, in addition to everything else that he's done, teaches classes on the law of the sea. So, John, welcome to the program. It's perfect to have you on. I mean, is there anything you don't do? That's the question that I have. But let me ask you this question. It's an international waterway. It's governed by international law. As such, any country has the right of free passage. Yet Iran is trying to control this. Where does law come down on this?
Yeah, John, I don't know what I did to get in trouble with the dean, but yes, I was made to teach law of the sea several times at Berkeley. The way you described it, John, is exactly right. When you have two bodies of water, which are international waters, in the Persian Gulf, and then you have a strait that connects them, which is the Strait of Hormuz. International law has long said that the two nations whose territory are along the strait have no right to block passage, because otherwise you can't go back and forth between those two bodies of water. It's as if in the United States we had two lakes and a river. To be able to get back and forth, you have to have free passage in that river. That has been the law for a long time. The United States has long fought for that right. And the United States Navy deliberately goes through straits all around the world on a regular basis to make clear the right of free navigation. And that's always been the law with the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, I was taking a look at some of the choke points around the world. And for Iran to say, look, we control the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to charge a toll, or we're going to control it, would be akin to Spain or Morocco saying that we control the Strait of Gibraltar and you're going to have to pay to go through it. Yemen or Djibouti charging for transit through the Bab al-Mandab Strait, though we have seen Yemen cause problems there. Or Singapore charging for transit through the Singapore Strait. It just doesn't happen.
And you could get even to tougher cases. If the United States were to allow Iran to get away with this, then what about the strait between Taiwan and China? China could just close that off, say, oh, well, Taiwan's our territory. We're not going to let anyone go through there. Or we could close off what's called the Strait of Malacca, through which all the oil that gets to China, Japan, Korea, all those nations, all has to go through that strait. And anybody could close that off, I suppose, if you believed Iran. And so it's always been important ever since, for 500 years, the right of freedom of navigation of the seas has been one of the core principles of international law. The United States has gone to war to defend that right. We went to the war of 1812 with the British to defend the right of the United States to trade with whoever we wanted to under the idea of freedom of the seas. And that principle is at stake here with the Strait of Hormuz, too.
Yeah, I want to ask the control room to keep up the map of activity through the Strait of Hormuz, because you can notice that through the lower part of the Strait of Hormuz, there's hardly any traffic, and any boats, any ships that are going through are going up to the north around that little island there called Larak Island. And that's because Iran has said, look, we can't say that there aren't mines in the main part of the strait. So if you come up around Larak Island, we can guarantee you that it's going to be safe package. But then at the same time, they ding these oil tankers or cargo ships for $2 million in toll. I mean, that's like the mafia is running the place.
Yeah. That is also utterly illegal under international law, to essentially say, well, what we're going to do is block free passage in international waters in this strait. Everyone has a right to use, so that you have to take a detour that brings us by our coast, and then we're going to charge you a toll. The right of nations to be able to go through that strait unimpeded is long acknowledged as what we call customary international law that all nations agree on. Iran has agreed on it. What if the United States did the same thing to Iran? They would be jumping up and down, screaming that we were violating their right of free navigation.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see which way this goes. It's going to be a very complicated navigation in this negotiation for J.D. Vance. So we'll see if he gets an opportunity to tell Iran, no, you're not going to get the opportunity to control the Strait of Hormuz. Professor of everything, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
That's a title I never wanted, but thank you, John.
Nếu quý vị thấy nội dung này hữu ích, xin hãy ủng hộ kênh bằng cách nhấn đăng ký, bấm thích và để lại bình luận bên dưới. Sự đồng hành của quý vị là nguồn động lực quý báu để chúng tôi tiếp tục mang đến những nội dung tốt hơn trong các chương trình tiếp theo.